Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda, and please welcome to our Operation Freedom platform, WeThePeopleProcessing.com. You know, are you tired of being threatened to be canceled just because you have a company focused on liberty and freedom? Well, worry no more, folks. WeThePeopleProcessing.com is your go-to merchant services, freedom-based company to provide business service payment solutions. We the People Processing provides their clients a cancel culture-free platform which is domestically based. They provide competitive rates, no contracts with next-day funding, a fully vetted and like-minded financial infrastructure, and full support for integrations, implementation, and e-commerce efforts. Bottom line, WeThePeopleProcessing.com focuses on defending your company's free market growth, values, and future. Check them out at www.WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Once you're on the site, enter in password Operation Freedom or call 855-499-2024. That's WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Then, when on the website, enter Operation Freedom as your password or call 855-499-2024. Welcome back to Operation Freedom, folks. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting our ancillary bunker, linked to our main freedom bunker in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. We're here every Sunday for you from 2 to 5 p.m. live. Also available 24/7 at davejanda.com with extra shows and extra content and extra guests and extra analysis and archives to all of our shows. We have a tremendous amount of free content for your edification and then for you to network at davejanda.com. But where the real meat of the matter is, with the in-depth information that will put you months and frankly years ahead of the curve, is our subscription platform, which is 30 cents a day. 30 cents a day for priceless information, $9 a month. You can try it for a month, and if you don't like it, you get rid of it. But I don't know why. Because the information we provide you will never see, hear, or experience in the bought-off lamestream fake media, and we keep it incredibly affordable at $9 a month. That's less than a Costco pizza. So you know what? Here, if you have cable, shut down your cable. I just saved you a minimum $100 to $150. $9, and you won't get propaganda. You will just get what they don't want you to know about, which will make a significant difference, positive difference for your future. You know, one of the topics we have focused on since the inception of Operation Freedom, the radio show, but now over 12 years, has been your financial freedom and liberty, and to put you ahead of the globalist constructed curve. My next guest is someone who has actually dedicated his life to doing that, putting your interests ahead of his own, and actually putting his life on the line, to tell you in great detail what you will never get through Fox Business News or what I call CNBS or Reuters or Bloomberg about what the globalist cult is doing to your financial freedom and what you can do to undermine what the cult is up to. Bill Holter, after a lengthy career in financial services, retired in 2006 and moved his family out of the United States because he did not like what he saw on his radar screen. Power move. Bill then returned in 2011 and currently makes his home in Texas. He joined Miles Franklin, M-I-L-E-S Franklin, F-R-A-N-K-L-I-N, milesfranklin.com, as an associate writer in 2012. And Bill also is a metals broker through Miles Franklin. You can contact him through Miles Franklin, Miles, M-I-L-E-S Franklin.com. Bottom line, folks, Bill Holter is one of the best forensic economic analysts in the world. It is my honor to welcome back to the Operation Freedom show and platform, Bill Holter. Bill, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, Dave.
So, Bill, tell me if I'm off on this. We're getting a tremendous amount of shiny mirrors thrown at the public now, that being balloons. We had the balloon that took 9 days to waft across Alaska, Canada, Montana, through the heartland into South Carolina before it was, quote, brought down. We had another balloon just on Friday night in Alaska. We had another one Saturday in Canada. We had Another one potentially, although it turned out not to be the case, over Montana last night. And right before we went on air, we had airspace over Michigan shut down because of a military potential event, because of a sighting of something that is yet to be determined. Bill, I believe that the reason why we're getting so many shiny mirror balloon events is because the cult is panicked and desperate, and they want to divert people's attention away from what's happening on the ground on terra firma, notably what's happening with the dollar, what's happening with the financial system in our country and around the world. Am I off?
No, you're exactly right. It's a distraction. I mean, look at all the things that they need to hide. I mean, the Biden administration, the laptop, Ukraine. I mean, just go on down. Well, add to that, the Saudis are now accepting currencies other than dollars, and really nobody's talking about that. And I think that's the biggest thing that's out there, because that is the end of the PetroDollar. It is the end of Bretton Woods too.
And Bill, let's talk about that, because that is enormous. What has propped up the dollar since the early 70s, when Nixon and Kissinger, along with the banking conglomerate, instituted the PetroDollar, where if somebody wanted to buy oil from the Saudis, they first had to buy dollars and then buy the oil as opposed in their own currencies. The Saudis cut an agreement. Okay, you protect us militarily and we'll demand payment in dollars. And then once we get paid in those dollars, we'll reinvest it in your bond market to prop up your bond market so that you could produce just this funny money and just keep producing it. And in fact, Bill, that formula is enabled the dollar to remain as the reserve currency of the world. And as you aptly point out, that the bought-off lamestream fake media will not touch, is now we have the Saudis saying, not so much with the dollar. Let's talk to China about a petro-yuan, and Russia about, well, the ruble, and India about their rupees. And am I off on that assessment, Bill?
No, that's exactly correct. And going one step further, and you kind of touched on this back in the 1973 when the petrodollar started, they were reinvesting revenues into treasuries, which supported our deficits. Now, at this point, if they're going to be taking yuan, rubles, even euros, whatever, that is much, much less demand for dollars. And that's obviously, there's not going to be any funds going into treasuries. And actually, if you've watched, China has been dumping treasuries over the last year, 2 years. Who's going to fund our deficit? And the deficits now are $1 trillion+ per year, every year. Who's going to fund that? The answer is the Federal Reserve. They're the only buyer of last resort.
So I was having a discussion with someone this week, Bill, and they said to me, well, Dave, okay, but, obviously this talk about a petro-yuan and petro-ruble and petro-rupee, and, Dave, it's really not having an adverse effect on our economy, because just look at the employment data. I mean, the latest data, they said, well, 185,000 jobs were expected, but Dave, it came in at 517,000 jobs. That shows the economy is, but Bill, as I pointed out, it's
bogus.
It's bogus, right? Because they added 3 million jobs that were seasonally adjusted. Well, so in fact, in January, our economy lost 2.5 million jobs.
Correct. Exactly. And again, like you started off, smoke and mirrors. I mean, that's what the media reports, is the 500,000 additional jobs. And when you dig into the numbers and you find out the actual truth, there's 2.5 million less jobs. And I mean, all you have to do is just look at the layoffs that were actually announced publicly. Mm-hmm. Tens, hundreds of thousands of jobs. Just in January. So, and one other thing I want to mention is we're now pushing the point where interest only on our debt is pushing close to $1 trillion a year, and it'll never go down. Mm-hmm. It's only going to go up from here because the amount of debt that is on the books is going to increase, and interest rates are not going to go down from here.
And Bill, the way they continue to create this smoke and mirrors is not just with fraudulent data to bamboozle the public, but they actually criminally manipulate markets. Is that an
correct.
Accurate statement?
Yeah, that's correct. And that's where I was going to go next, is the average American right now is still frozen, if you will. I mean, there's really not panic, because they look at their statements, their 401k statements, their brokerage statements. Yeah, they're down 15, 20, sometimes, 25, 30%, but it's not a disaster yet. And once we get true clearing prices and you see equities down 50, 75% or more, then you're going to see panic. Then people are going to start to get pissed. But what they've done is they've manipulated markets, and they do that through derivatives. You use a dollar and you can control $50 or $100. So it's easy to support the markets. But once that fails, then you're going to see real general unrest. People are going to be angry.
And Bill, folks, we're speaking with Bill Holter, milesfranklin.com. Bill, when we specifically talk about criminal manipulation of markets, I want to address the issue of the precious metals market, in particular gold and silver, that has been criminally manipulated for now decades. And because it's really the nemesis of the cult and their freedom financial stripping agenda for people to own a store of value, that being gold and silver,
which cannot bankrupt.
Right. And you've talked about this before, Bill, that there are no third-party obligations, counterparty
Correct.
risks associated with gold and silver. In other words, there's no debt, DEBT, associated with gold and silver.
Because they're pure money.
That's physical
they
gold
are money.
and silver. That's physical gold and silver. We have to differentiate between physical gold and silver, correct, and paper gold and silver.
Right. The paper, those were contracts, and contracts were made to be broken. I don't know if you're aware of this. The CFTC has not released the COT numbers for silver since January 24th.
Right. So let's talk about that. The Commodities Futures Trading Commission that supposedly oversees the regularity, the integrity of markets, and they've done a poor job. I think we all agree with that. But they always release something called the COT every Friday that looks at derivative positions that everybody is holding in precious metals markets. And for the past 2 weeks, because of a ransomware attack that was supposed to get cleared up within 2 days and now is, almost a week and a half, 2 weeks old, they have not reported any data. So, Bill, more smoke and mirrors, more blindfolds being put on. Bill, could that be the reason that this has occurred? Yeah, ransomware, but do you believe they're trying to hide a complete breakdown behind the curtain that they could no longer hide?
It would be pure speculation, if just guessing. But they're trying to hide something, and we don't know what it is. And of course, what did they say? The ransomware came from where? The Russians.
Russia.
Exactly.
Well, then again, right, this week it came out from Cy Hirsch, investigative journalist, that many of us have been talking since the end of September 2022 about the Nordstream Pipeline and it being blown by Western sources, including the United States, Norway, and several other NATO countries being involved. This would be kind of an interesting way to, if you will, right, take down or at least get an indication, get some evidence of a ransomware attack of who was doing the dirty behind the curtain with these manipulations and then release it in the near future.
Well, and what did they try to say originally? They tried to say that Russia blew up their own pipeline.
Yeah, right. Right.
I mean, who does it benefit? Mm-hmm. When you look at who does it benefit, we did it.
And Bill, we also see that on Friday night, late on a Friday night, the White House put out a position that they're essentially targeting all cryptocurrencies. And many people have used cryptocurrencies, as they also use gold and silver, to, if you will, get out of the syndicate's paper market. You know, Bill, it appears that the arsonists lit the fire, and at least to me, and they're trying to close and lock the doors to keep as many people in the burning theater as they can. Is that a false assessment?
No, that's absolutely true. And I mean, just think about it. Cryptocurrencies, even though I personally believe they're digital air, I don't think they're any type of store of value. It's a perfect accounting system, but it's a perfect accounting system of nothings. They have diverted demand from dollars. And I think we're at the point now where they are, and I mean, this is not speculation. They've said outright that what they want to do is move the world to central bank digital currencies. And what would the cryptocurrencies be? They would be direct competition with the central bank currency. So it looks to me like they're trying to squash them.
Now, Bill, you have tremendous insight into what's happening on several levels of the ground as it relates to precious metals. Educate us, Bill, where we are right this point in time as it relates to precious metals supply and demand. And we have seen a significant attack on the paper markets of gold and silver the past 2 weeks. Educate us where we are in that attack process, being the attack coming from the syndicate.
Yeah, the way I understand it, the institutional demand is still through the roof. Premiums on the retail side have come down, and the business has slowed somewhat from the pace it was all of last year. I can tell you from a personal standpoint, I'm getting less orders, but the orders that I'm getting are much, much larger than what they've been in the past. So, you know, maybe I'm getting 7 of the 10 orders I used to get, but the orders are double, triple, quadruple. So it seems to me that bigger retail money is beginning to move into the metals. And generally, you know, I hear this all the time. I know something's wrong, but I don't know exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they come to the realization that gold and silver are A, out of the system, and B, they cannot default. And, you know, thus it is a safe haven or a safety valve, whatever you want to call it.
And Bill, what do you say to the people who say, well, you know, I invested in ammunition years ago, and that has appreciated many hundreds of percent. But I also put a little money into gold and silver, and they've appreciated, but nowhere near that nowhere near that percentage amount. And really, the store of value is not precious metals, but in ammo or in Netflix stock or whatever the other paper asset might be. What do you say to those folks, Bill?
Well, first off, there's no derivatives on bullets, on ammo. So they weren't able to short the price of ammo to push it down. And in fact, the powers that be want the price of ammo much higher so that the average person is able to buy less ammo. Mm-hmm. Versus gold and silver, There are derivative contracts that are sold naked short. There's no gold. There's no silver behind them. But the contracts are sold, and it pushes the price down. Even so, virtually the best investment you could have had since the year 2000 is gold. I mean, you were talking about $250 gold in 2000. Now you're looking at what, $1,900 gold. It's 7 or 8 times return, and actually with zero default risk. And that's where we stand worldwide. The entire globe, the entire financial system worldwide is at risk of default.
And Bill, what do you say to the people that say, yeah, I do believe that the precious metals markets are criminally manipulated, but I believe they'll always be criminally manipulated. There will never be any, if you will, resolution. That this will go on for infinity. The criminal banking syndicate will continue to manipulate the price of gold and silver. And Bill, to those people, I've always said, and you can tell me if this is faulty response. Well, if that's the case, then why are Russia and China and India and the central banks setting new records of their purchases of gold and silver over the past several years? Your take, Bill.
Yeah, no, you're right. And the reason they are and have been buying gold, silver, real things, is because they know the dollar's going to collapse. I mean, it's a mathematical certainty at this point. What they're doing is they're trying to replace paper on their balance sheets with real money, because they know once the derivatives markets blow up, they will, if they don't fill up with gold, they're going to have black holes in their balance sheet that cannot be filled.
There were several people that knew I was going to have you on the show today, and they said, ask Bill about the recent attacks on gold and silver by the banking syndicate, driving gold down about $100 an ounce and driving silver down a couple bucks an ounce. Does he see a near-term end to this, or does he think that they're going to pummel them back to where they were a year ago?
First off, I'd say it doesn't matter, because we're playing for the end game. We're not playing for, what's the price of gold this week, next month. Mm-hmm. When all is said and done, either you have gold or you don't have wealth. Mm-hmm. I would say just look at the charts, and gold and silver were both in the process of breaking out to the upside, mm-hmm. which means excitement. So, what did they have to do? They had to piss on the fire. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they read charts just like anyone else does. And this has happened, how many times has this happened over the last 20, 30 years?
And the one small indication we have of how they're criminally manipulating things, the COT.
Exactly, yeah.
We haven't had any evidence of that, even that small amount of information for the past 2 weeks, which makes one think that they're trying to cover their tracks before something else breaks. And then when something else breaks, people aren't going to care about what happened over the past 2 weeks. Bill, in our last couple minutes, educate our listeners on how they can get in touch with you and how they can follow your efforts.
Actually, and I meant to send you an email and I forgot. A week ago today, I opened my own website, billholter.com.
Awesome.
You can either go to .com, .net, or .org. And it's going to be it is pretty much the same format as JS Mindset was. The only difference is, out of respect for Jim, that was a G-rated website, and, I'm a little rougher around the edges, so, but it'll be pretty much the same, the same content, but my comments may be a little rougher.
That's why we love you, Bill.